And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here as we get ready for knockout qualifying for the penultimate race, I should say, not lap, penultimate race of the season here. We are at Talladega Super Speedway, and we are getting ready here to find out who is going to be the final four to battle for the championship at next week's season finale of Auto Club. We are down to 9 drivers, and after this race is over, we will be down to 4 who will battle at Auto Club. And basically, if one of the 4 drivers that make it into the final 4 do not win this week's race at Talladega, it's going to come down to the highest finishing position at Auto Club being named the champion. Now, right now, 2 drivers come into this race at Talladega in a very good situation of being able to make it into that final 4, including the defending champion, Anthony McCrury, as well as Benjamin Miles, who, if memory serves me correctly, was one of the close competitors for the championship last season as well. Last season, of course, we didn't use the new chase system. We had it be top 10 in points and 2 wildcard drivers, and it was basically whoever finished the best for those 10 races out of those drivers won the championship. This season, a lot closer, a lot more competitive. As we're looking at Dillon Poteet here, who was in the chase for the championship but got eliminated, I believe it was in round 2. And now just trying to finish out the season with a second win. Keep in mind as well that we've had 2 races in this round, and both races have been won by non-chasers. Monobe winning at Michigan, and last week's race at Homestead won by Dillon Young. And a 44.622 will be the first official lap time laid down here in this session by the 31 of Dillon Poteet. There's Benjamin Miles coming out onto the racetrack there in the Napa Chevrolet, 2-time winner this season. And Benjamin Miles, we're going to have to see what kind of strategy he'll play out in this race, because he comes in 7 points behind Anthony McCrury for the points lead, but he's about 22 points ahead of the cutoff line of 4th place. So how aggressive is he going to be here in qualifying as well as in the race? We'll have to wait and find out. Right now, the fastest car on track is Leon Alvarise. He and Trent Dunham are 1st and 2nd right now, both hitting 43-second lap times. And Miles crosses the line, 24th fastest. I just saw a car leaving pit road. That is Kyle Mathews, another chaser who is at this point in time here at Dega almost in a must-win situation. Kyle Mathews winning the season-opening Daytona 500. That's his only win so far this season. That allowed him to make the chase. And Kyle Mathews really needing to step it up here this week at Talladega. He's got to pretty much finish, I would think, in the top 3. A win would be preferable for him, and we know he can get it done at a restricted plate track since he did it at Daytona. We'll see if he can do it here at Talladega. As there's Anthony McCrury, the defending champion, the guy who looks like he's going to make it into the final 4 to try and win back-to-back championships in the Hersheys Cup Series. 2nd fastest on the charts right now with a 43.074, and there's Jessica Shelton in the 0-2, who last week at Homestead was actually en route to a really good finish. He was running inside the top 20 for most of the race and got caught up in that late wreck. Ended up finishing out of the race. I think it was one of 2 chase drivers that finished out of the race. Actually, now that I look back, I think it was 3 that finished out of the race. And right now, she is 9th fastest on the charts. So that would be good enough to move on to the next round of qualifying at this current point in time. Right now, the fastest car on track is in this group right here, and that is Daniel Voyles. As a matter of fact, our top 4 fastest speeds are right there. Voyles is the fastest. Last week's winner, Dillon Young, 2nd. John Gilbert in the 108, 3rd. And Zachary Fitzwater in 4th. Now, Fitzwater headed into last week's race at Homestead inside the top 4 in points. He's fallen now down to the 6th position in the point stands. Right now, the 4 drivers that would come into this race in the top 4 in the standings would be Anthony McCrury, Benjamin Miles, James Richardson, and Charles Sandfer jumped up to the 4th position after last week's race at Homestead. And right now you got SCBM, the fastest on track, in the form of Seth Cole. See if we can find that number 80 Liberty University car. Oh, Brandon Gonzalez is blown up. The 23 car is smoking, and coming to pit road there is Seth Cole, and the second fastest car on track just behind him, Shaun Gallighan. They're apparently getting the draft off this group of 3, which is allowing them the lap times they just ran. And Anthony McCrury just jumped up to second, Shelton up to third, Kyle Mathews up to fourth. So that group now apparently is producing some speed as well. Oh yeah, that's why they caught up to Austin Mongold and I believe Joshua Srigley. So yeah, a lot of speed being made right here, and I think they might be allowed to complete this lap, so it might be an opportunity for someone like Stultz or Srigley to jump up here. Right now Stultz is 6th fastest, but Srigley's on the outside looking in. He was 23rd. Let's see if he's going to get scored here. He might jump up into the top 10. And no, he does not get scored. So apparently they've stopped scoring lap times, which means the drivers that will move on to the next round would be Seth Cole, Anthony McCrury, Jessica Shelton, Kyle Mathews, Shaun Gallighan, Zachary Stultz, Carson Scott, Stephanie Gardner, Joseph Srigley, Benjamin Miles, Daniel Voyles, and Dillon Young would get the final transfer spot into round 2 of qualifying as the session comes to a close here for this first heat of the first round.
To your cars.
So as far as go or go home drivers are concerned, it looks like 3 drivers move on here from this round. Seth Cole, Zachary Stultz, and Stephanie Gardner. So if we have 4 or more drivers that are go or go homers move into the next round of qualifying from Heat 2, then the drivers that would miss out on the race would be John Gilbert, Elijah Gordon, James Qualls, O'Neill Balvin, Garrett Sidner, Keith Batson, Matthew Dalio, Aaron Henderson, and Austin Mongold. You see Brandon Gonzalez there. They'll probably have to start at the rear of the field anyway, regardless of their lap time, because they're probably going to have to do an engine change after we saw apparently the engine expire on his Mitsubishi Lancer. So, Seth Cole, Anthony McCrury, Jessica Shelton, Kyle Mathews, Shaun Gallighan, Zachary Stultz, Carson Scott, Stephanie Gardner, Joseph Srigley, Benjamin Miles, Daniel Voyles, and last week's winner, Dillon Young, will be moving on to the next round of qualifying. Kind of interesting there that there are 4 chase drivers in that group: McCrury, Shelton, Mathews, and Miles. The only chase driver in this group that's not moving on to the next round is Zachary Fitzwater. He'll be starting somewhere mid-pack in this week's race. So let's head now for our second heat of our first round of qualifying and see who's going to be transferring from there to join these 12 drivers in round 2 of qualifying here at Talladega. So as we get ready here for our second heat of the first round of qualifying, we had, as I mentioned, 4 of the 5 drivers that were chase drivers from Heat 1 make their way into the second round of qualifying. We're going to have to see now about, in this heat, if I'm not mistaken, I believe there are 4 championship competitors in this heat. They would include Charles Sandfer, James Richardson, trying to remember who the other 2 are. I can look like this and actually cheat. Chris Dodd would be another of them, and the final one would be Grayson Acevedo. So I have to see out of those 4 who's going to move on to the next round of qualifying. I don't really know about Talladega Superspeedway, at least this Talladega, whether track position is a huge factor or not. I would assume not, with the way that we saw a number of groups be able to reel in other groups. So the draft here is obviously very, very strong. But then again, you never know. I mean, Talladega, it's like a crapshoot. You never know where the wreck's going to happen. I mean, go back to last week at Homestead. It was looking like it was going to be a clean and green flag race. I went back, was looking through the field, looking at chasers that were struggling, and lo and behold, smoke up ahead, and it was a huge pileup on the front straightaway. You know, it can happen out of anywhere and out of nowhere. And so these drivers perhaps strategizing where the best place would be to be in this race, and I guess for the most part, a number of them deciding closer to the front of the field is the safest place to be. Maybe at least early on. And John Art, first lap laid down here in this second heat, will be a 46.223. That will easily get beaten once these cars start getting bunched up and getting into their little groups. Could have a group formed right here. Cole Baker, John Art, Tim Walsh, Noah Cars. They could all be working together here momentarily. as a couple drivers have now hit the 43s. Joe Rockingham at the top of the board, a 43.1 and a 43.8 for our winner 2 weeks ago at Michigan, the rookie Marie Monobe. Oh, this could be a nice little group right here, and there's a couple of chasers heading it. Grayson Acevedo and James Richardson. Richardson third in the point standings. Acevedo, he basically has to win to make it into the next round of the chase. He is so far back. He was in a deficit heading into Homestead, got involved in the wreck, ended up finishing poorly in that race. He basically needs to win now in order to have a shot of getting into the Final Four in the chase for the championship. And I would watch for this group right here. Cole Baker, Tim Walsh, Noah Kars, John Arndt. These guys are going to lay down some pretty fast lap times here coming to the line. There's no doubt about that. Look at the run Tim Walsh gets there through 3 and 4. One of these 6 is going to jump to the top of the leaderboard here, I guarantee you. Whoa, almost some contact there between John Arndt and Noah Kars. And let's see which one gets it. Who's going to get the fastest speed of this group? And it was Noah Kars, the guy that was the caboose on this train, 42.880. Tim Walsh, second fastest. John Arndt was 7th. Cole Baker was 8th of this group. And I guarantee you they're going to make even more speed here on this lap. Marty Johnson just beat their lap time, though, along with Jason Haywood. Tim Walsh, Marie Monobe, Emmanuel Hartnett, Joe Rockingham. I'll bet they're all in a group. Let's see, there's Marty, there's Haywood, there's Hartnett, there's Rockingham, and there's Monobe. Yeah, they're all in a single file group. So that's why they produced as much speed as they just did. And right now, Jason Haywood, a 41.9. Puts him top of the leaderboard. Where's that group? There's this group, and they're crossing the line. Do any of them have any shot for the fastest lap? And not this time. Fastest in this group still is, at the moment, Noah Kars, and he's all the way down in 11th. So let's jump back to that group that was headed by Jason Haywood. Here it is. And now Marie Monobe top of the leaderboard, 41.652. This is the group that's producing the speed right now. Monobe, Rockingham, Haywood, Hartnett. That's the top 4, and they're all in this group of race cars at the current point in time. You've also got Marty Johnson. He's in 10th. He's heading this group. You got Holden Gluba and Tripantacchio Vernio in this group, and they haven't been able to yet break into the top 10, as they'll now catch Michael Norman. This could hinder their speed on this lap. Let's see if anybody jumps up from this group. Marty Johnson jumped up to 8, but that was basically it. As far as the Go or Go Homers are concerned, right now I'm seeing about 8 drivers, at least up in the top 10. So we're definitely going to have some drivers going home, regardless of moving on to the second round of qualifying. As Marie Monobe from 2 weeks ago, our race winner in Michigan, right now is the fastest in this heat of the first round of qualifying. It looks like she will move on to the next round of Q, along with Joe Rockingham, Jason Haywood, Emmanuel Hartnett, Charles Sandfer, Zack Flickinger, Johnny Gardner, Dougie Shears, Holden Gluba, Marty Johnson, Nathan Hudson, and William Brock will get the final transfer spot into the second round of qualifying. Sandfer, the only chaser moving on from this heat. You got Chris Dodd in 16th, Grayson Acevedo in 17th, and James Richardson 19th fastest in this session. So that will total it out to 5 chasers moving on to round 2 of qualifying if you add Charles Sandfer into the mix. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 official Go or Go Homers moving on to the next round of qualifying, which means that 3 drivers in round 2 will be eliminated from the main event, regardless of moving on to round number 2. And officially, the drivers that I mentioned back in Heat 1, that if we had more than 4 drivers move into the next round of qualifying from this heat, that they would be eliminated. They officially are, as well as in this heat, Pichu London, Noah Kars, James McLeod, Daniel Olson, John Cittadino, Tripantacchio Vernio, Kyle Keith, John Andrews, Rocco Twyman, and Davey Johnson. They will not be starting this week's race at Talladega. But it's now time to move on to round number 2. We've got 5 chasers moving on to that round, and a number of notable rookies that maybe could have a chance of getting into round 3 with a chance of starting on the pole here this week at Talladega. So we'll get ready here for round 2 of qualifying, and this should be very interesting because, as stated, there will be 7 drivers that will make their way into the main event race out of 10 go-or-go-home drivers that made their way here into round 2 of qualifying, and we've got 5 chase drivers that have made their way into this round, including McCrury, Miles, Shelton, Mathews, and Sandfer. So all 3 of the Retro Racing Enterprises cars making it here into this second round of qualifying. They'll try and make it into the third and final round of qualifying as well. The top 12 speeds will transfer into the final round with a chance of starting on the pole, outside of the front row, or inside the top 10, as rookie Joe Rockingham, the first one off, followed by a couple more rookies, Dougie Shears in the 21 and Stephanie Gardner in the 82. It's been a while since we actually saw Joe Rockingham on track in a race, in a main event. I'm trying to remember back where it was. I'm trying to remember if he made the race at Salem. If he didn't make the race at Salem, then I think the last time we might have seen him, oh boy, I don't even know. It's been a while anyway. It's been normally his teammate Elijah Gordon, who has made a number of races in the past. I know Elijah Gordon raced Salem. But Joe Rockingham was the second fastest in the second heat of the first round of qualifying. And he is now on the clock to lay down the first official lap time of this second round of qualifying. I believe that the lap time that was laid down in, I don't remember what it was in the first heat, but in the second heat, I believe it was a 36, or no, 40, I think it was a 43.223, if I remember correctly. Could get a little bit of draft off the back of Jessica Shelton here, so this could really help his lap time. Keep in mind, Joe Rockingham wanted to make it in the next round of qualifying because he's a go-or-go-home driver. The bottom 3 go-or-go-home drivers here in this session will be going home. 44.362, the lap time by Rockingham, but that was very quickly beaten. Stephanie Gardner, top of the leaderboard. Remember, she came out behind Rockingham and Dougie Shears, so she apparently got some good draft there on her lap. 43.020, the lap time for the Alltel My Circle Dodge out of Joanna Atwood Motorsports. Seth Cole up to third. Right now, 4 go-or-go-homers in the top 5, and as soon as I say that, William Brock jumps up to the 3rd position. And this group might catch up to these drivers right here. You got Benjamin Miles and Marie Monobe. Joe Rockingham can get a little whiff of draft from them. He could get a good lap time. Dougie Shears, the tail end of this trio, just jumped up top of the leaderboard, and now Stephanie Gardner up to the top of the leaderboard. She's just enough in the draft of Dougie Shears to be able to get these lap times. Now, if Rockingham can traverse his way carefully past Monobe and Miles and not have it really hinder his lap time, this could be a really good lap for the 84. Although he goes high there on Monobe and Miles, that actually might hurt his lap time. And now they're going to go 3 wide, perhaps, through the tri-oval. They are. Are any of these drivers going to have a shot at being fastest here? And Dougie Shears, yes, took a little time, but Dougie Shears top of the leaderboard. And did Stephanie Gardner beat him this time? No, she did not. That time she was 2/10 slower on her lap. So this could be the group right here to produce some speed. Let's see if any other groups have been formed. You got Marty Johnson, Zack Flickinger, Dillon Young trying to formulate a group up together. Kyle Mathews working with Shaun Gallighan right now. Gallighan 12th fastest. Mathews is 14th fastest. Now drop him and Gallighan down another spot. Let's see if this might be enough to get Kyle Mathews up into the top 12, up to 5th. Gallighan up to 7th. And you got Joseph Srigley and Zachary Stultz just up ahead. They could work together. William Brock, Anthony McCrury, and Jason Haywood in a group here. Right now, Brock is 9th fastest, McCrury 11th, and Haywood right now 22nd fastest on the charts. Carson Scott right now in the bubble spot with a 43.112. He's in 12th place. This lap time much better, up to 7th fastest, so he's no longer in the bubble spot. There's the fastest car on track, Nathan Hudson, 42.364 for our Lime Rock winner. One of 3 rookies to go to victory lane this season. No, strike that. 4 rookies to go to victory lane this season. Yeah, Monobe, Kyle Keith, Trepentacia Vernio, and Nathan Hudson. And they're catching on Seth Cole here, our Hudson and Voyles. I don't think this is going to help Nathan Hudson's lap time at all. He'll move on to the next round, I'm pretty sure. But I don't think this is going to be better than his 42.3. Well, doesn't matter. Lap times apparently aren't being counted anymore. So Hudson paces the second round of qualifying here. He'll make the next round, including Stephanie Gardner, Dougie Shears, Daniel Voyles, Joe Rockingham, Marie Monobe, Jessica Shelton, Dillon Young, Benjamin Miles, Carson Scott, Kyle Mathews, and Shaun Gallighan will just barely make it in. It looks like the drivers that will fail to make the race will be Johnny Gardner, Jason Haywood, and Holden Gluba, from what it looked like.
Drivers, to your cars.
Yep, Gardner, Haywood, and Gluba. They will not make the race. They were the bottom 3 of the go-home drivers in speed. Anthony McCrury and Charles Sandfer will not make the next round of qualifying. So it will be 3 chasers that move on to the final round of qualifying: Shelton, Miles, and Mathews. So the drivers that officially will make the race as far as the go-home drivers will be Stephanie Gardner, Dougie Shears, Joe Rockingham, Marie Monobe, as well as Marty Johnson, Seth Cole, and Zachary Stultz. They'll be the go-homers that will make the main event. Interesting, too, our 2 past race winners, Marie Monobe and Dillon Young, they are going to be moving on to the next round of qualifying, the final round of qualifying. That should be very, very interesting. So let's get ready and find out who of the 12 from Hudson down to Gallighan are going to start on the pole position for this week's race at Talladega Superspeedway. Alright then, let's get ready to go here. In our final round of qualifying, I noticed a lot of drivers that moved into this next round of qualifying have some recent history. Shaun Gallighan winning not too long ago at Armory Digital Superspeedway. Dillon Young winning last week at Homestead, Miami. You've got... Hang on, I'm looking at... Okay, I have no idea who that is it's calling. You got Marie Monobe, who won 2 weeks ago at Michigan. A lot of names up here that we've talked about just in the past few weeks that have a shot of starting on the pole, and we've got about almost a full minute off the clock here, and nobody has come off pit road yet of these 12. Jessica Shelton just now pulled out of the garage area into her pit stall. There's Kyle Mathews. We've got 3 chasers in this final round of qualifying: Shelton, Mathews, and Miles. We'll have to see if one of them will start on the pole, and a full minute has been eaten off the clock already. We're already now to the 3-minute 50-second mark, and nobody has left pit road yet. They're all waiting, biding their time. Oh, someone's making a step out. I think that's Dillon Young, last week's winner. And indeed it is. So Dillon Young heads out. Here comes another car. I think that might be Monobe. And now they're all starting to come out. There goes Joe Rockingham. There goes Carson Scott. But our chasers have not budged yet. There goes another couple cars out. Oh, there goes Shelton, Stephanie Gardner, and Benjamin Miles. So 2 chasers out. Still on pit road, though, Shaun Gallighan, Kyle Mathews, Daniel Voyles. I believe Dougie Shears is still on pit road, and I can't quite tell who that other car is back behind him. Well, we'll find out in just a minute. They just come up pit road. That's Nathan Hudson. Here comes Hudson. Here comes Shears. So now it's Gallighan, Voyles, and Mathews that are still to come off of pit road. There's the first car that came off pit road, Dillon Young. He's now on the clock. Gallighan is now off, Voyles now off, and Kyle Mathews will be the last one to leave pit road. So Dillon Young and the White Deuce trying to go for back-to-back wins. Last week was his first win of his Hersheys Cup Series career. Looking to move down there, try and get the side draft off the merging Nathan Hudson. Dillon Young had teammates go to victory lane before him. JT Bryant went to victory lane last year twice. for Young Motorsports. Levi McIntire went to victory lane this year for Young Motorsports at Las Vegas, but Dillon Young had never, since starting in the series, gone to victory lane until last week at Homestead. And the first lap time in this session, 46.030 for the Miller Lite Deuce. Nathan Hudson, you can see the slipstream coming into play, pulls off a single car pass on the high side. And we've already got lap times topping the leaderboard. Carson Scott, Monobe, and Joe Rockingham had all come off pit road together. Right now they are topping the leaderboard. As soon as I say that, Benjamin Miles top of the leaderboard, and this is why Stephanie Gardner, Miles, and Shelton have all found each other, and they're working together at the moment. Keep in mind, Shelton and Miles are two chasers. They're going to work together with each other, but you got to wonder which of the two of them wants the pole position more. When you're in the outside of the front row for the start of a restrictor plate race and you get kicked up the high side, it takes you forever to get to the rear of the field. And greatens your chances of more than likely having nowhere to go if a wreck breaks out in the early stages of the race. Let's see who jumps top of the leaderboard here. Will it be Gardner, Miles, or Shelton? Answer, Shelton, 42.370. These are the kind of racetracks Jessica Shelton thrives at, these restrictor plate tracks. Shelton knows how to put herself in a position, whether it's turning the fastest lap or winning the race. Ironically enough, her only win this season did not come at a restrictor plate track. It came at the Lady in Black, Darlington Raceway, her home track. Let's see what happens here. Daniel Voyles might get the tail end of this draft. He might have something to say about the pole position as crossing the line. Does anyone improve their lap? Shelton does not. Miles does not. Stephanie Gardner does not. And Voyles ran a 43.7. That was only good enough for 8th fastest. So still on the pole at this current point in time is Jessica Shelton. They're going to catch the draft of Shaun Gallighan here, are these threesome. Stephanie moves up. Benjamin Miles moves up. Shelton keeps her car just about status quo. Getting the nice run off the high side. Now is going to go up the middle. Now moves low. Let's see if anybody now is going to get the pole position from the group. From Shelton. Let's see. Nope. Shelton's lap time slower. And so were the other two, I believe. Miles was about 0.3 slower than his fastest lap. Shelton about 0.2 slower. And about 0.4 slower for Stephanie Gardner. And Voyles did beat his lap, but it was only moving him from 8th to 7th. It looks like it will be Jessica Shelton starting on the pole this week at Talladega Superspeedway. And in a situation where Shelton basically needs to win, this could be a huge step in the right direction of getting her into the Final Four to battle for the championship next week at the season finale of Auto Club, and the session has come to a close. So Shelton will start on the pole. It will be an all-female front row as Stephanie Gardner will start to her outside. Benjamin Miles will roll off from 3rd, Monobe in 4th. Row 3 will be Dougie Shears, Joe Rockingham. Row 4, Daniel Voyles and Nathan Hudson, future teammates right there. Shaun Gallighan and Carson Scott will be row 5, and Dillon Young will roll off in 11th alongside of Kyle Mathews. So we will have 3 chasers starting inside the top 12 for the start of this week's race at Talladega Superspeedway. So congratulations to Jessica Shelton on the pole position. I believe that might be her second pole of the season. Might be her first pole of the season, actually. I'm not rightly sure. I'll have to look back through the record books and find out and let you guys know when we get ready to go racing here for the points paying race here at Talladega. But regardless, if you want to see what the full starting lineup for this race is going to be, check down in the description below. It is there showing you the drivers 1st through 42nd that have made this week's race at Talladega. Certainly going to be a very interesting one. A chance to battle for the championship is on the line. You got to make the top 4 in points or wipe all that away with a victory here at Talladega. That'll be our next race coming up. Hope you'll tune in for that as you've been watching a production of the NNSCRA Offline Racing at its best.